Here we go. Grab your coffee. Da brevem solus usarum. So, da is an imperative for give. Give a brevem. It's a small amount, or a brief usorum. Give a brief use of the sun. We see it translated as borrow from the sun. It doesn't really make sense like that. Anyway, and in aeternum here we'll find out is an adverb. So we'll take this other. It starts off with an imperative and ends with an infunde, which is another imperative. So give a short use of the sun, and infunde, pour a modicam lucem, a small bit of light, in conditus oculi, eyes which are closed, and would pick up that adverb for eternity. So he's dead, so his eyes are closed forever. Non obnitimor. This is a deponent. Usually going to strive against or make some sort of opposition. There are 4 suggested objects for this deponent passive looking verb. Necessitata is one of them that some editors use, but you can just leave it out if you really want. So we're not going to make any objections. A neck. Neither are we going to denegamus, deny the terra, which is the earth, rem sum, its own thing. We come from dirt and we go back to the dirt, you might want to say. Said, but add to the solace of revenge, split with the genitive as usual. We are deprecamoring, we're praying or asking for an exiguum spatium, a very small space of life. Remember that they're asking the Egyptian necromancer to give some life and spirit back to the dead. So here they're asking for a small space of time, and they want ultionis, which is revenge. The propheta, the Egyptian necromancer prophet, he's sick, was thus propitious, he was propitiated by this. It's a Latin word we use in English. And a herbulam, a little herb, a quampium one, just a certain one or any one. Ob, here means up against, the os corporis, up against the mouth of the body. And we have imponens, the verb, and it's taking a dative, it looks like, pectori, eos. And so he put some herb up against the guy's mouth, and an allium, and another herb, it might have even been the same one, but just a different measure of it, to his pectori, which would be his chest region, and this shows it belongs to the dead body. Tunc. So then, ob versus the orientum, facing the east. The orient is the east. What have we got here? He's doing something, tacitus imprecatus. So he made a prayer silently. Looks like for the incrementa of the August sun. August is showing the sun's got some great presence, or a great, I probably took presence from that word there. The sun has a great nature, an August nature, and he's praying for its increment, so it's increase or it's rising. With a venerabilis facie scena. The scena is the stage, or so with a venerable face, which you might use in acting or with stage play. He adrexited, so he made rise up the studio, which is the enthusiasm and zeal of those present, to a miraculum. And curtatim's an adverb, meaning they were contesting a little bit with each other. This he had the more enthusiasm, I'm guessing. And tantum means such, or the amount. So basically, he's facing the east, silently praying, making a spectacle of himself. And this enthusiasm of the crowd is rising for a miraculum. Yep, 29. Here, as we saw, tantum usually means of greater size, and miraculum's probably from a diminutive, so it's a nice pairing. Anyway, I emitted me, I sent myself in as a socium. That's me and socium are accusatives in apposition. So as a participant of the crowd, I sent myself in, or I mixed in with the crowd, you might want to say. And pone, which is preposition, means behind the lectulum ipsum. This is the beer, where B-I-E-R, where the guy's going to get cremated, probably on a pyre. I think that's the usual way. So I placed myself pone behind it, Editorium's a comparative, so higher up. Insistans, so the present participle, so there I was standing on a quendam lapidem on a certain rock which was higher and behind the beer, and I was an arbitrabar, arbitrabaring. I was witnessing or watching with curiosus oculus, with curious eyes, cuncta, everything that's going on. So yam, we'll take that as now, the pectus, which is the chest, extoli, raised up with the tumour, with the swelling. So I guess the lungs are doing that, and yam. Now, the salibris vena. Vena is your veins, salibris means health-giving, so they are pulsaring. The veins are pulsating, means that there's a pulse, there's something going, probably blood going through the veins, and it's salibris, so it's health-giving. And yam again. Now the corpus, that's the body, is impleering, filled up with a spiritu, with breath here, and it had surged. What did the cadaver had surged? The dead body had surged, it rose up, and the adolescent, who was the dead one, he profator, he is now speaking. Quid, it's a question, so what or why? Oro, I'm asking, I'm begging. Me, post lethe, popular. You might get lethal from Lethe. I think Lethe is a figure in the underworld. After the popular, from the cup of death, or Lethe's cup, looks like yam here would be already. I was inantanting, that's the singular accusative present participle, so I was swimming in the Stygian palude. There's a Styx is the river in the underworld. I didn't know you swam, I thought you usually took a boat across or something. But, so we'll take up this question. We'll say why, we'll take that as why. Why are you reductising me? Why are you re-bringing me back to my officia, to my duties, you might want to say, to momentaria vitae, for a moment of life. So we're asking, why am I coming back after he's drank from the cup of death and he was swam across the Styx River? Why was he brought back? Design means desist, it's an imperative. Desist already or now. Precor, another word like ora, it's like another begging sort of word, or praying. And design, and a third imperative, permit. So desist and permit me in meam quitem, back into my rest. So I guess he was having a rest while he was swimming across the river. Hake. This or these were the vox audita, was the heard voice de corpe, from out of the corpse. This was the voice which they were heard coming from the body. Said, but the propheta, this is a necromancer, he was aliquanto commotio. He was a little bit commodiored. It's a comparative. He was a bit moved, rather moved, and he ate it. He said, why not that you refer or say populo to the people, singular tuaque mortis illuminus arcanus. Okay, arcanus like the secret. So why don't you illuminate us, if you want to steal that word, and tell us the arcana of your death. Why don't you tell us the secret about your death? And it's singular. So tell us how you died. You might want to put that in English. Anyway, arcana is a neuter plural, so singular is a plural, so it's a cool way of pluralizing singular, which to us looks singular. So it looks like, tell us every secret of your death. And here's an, it's a question, or do you not think, non putas, it is possible, posse, by my devotionibusses, or his incantations, to invocare the diars. Diars are the furies, and possible, Tibby for you, to torquere, or do you think that I'm able to torture your lassa membras, your torn up limbs? So the necromancer's challenging the dead body. Doesn't he think that he can invoke furies and torture the dead guy? Suscipit illy. So he suscipit usually means he began or he got up or something. Might take it he's began to speak maybe. De lectula, from this lectula, from this lounge thing which he was being carried on to be burnt with, and cum gemeto imo, with a deep groan, or usually means from the bottom of his guts, so he's groaning deeply. He sick, thus adorated, which can mean honoured or begging, to the populum. So we'll just take this as he began to speak. Malice, by evil, nove nupte peremptus. So peremptus means I've been killed. Looks like by the nove nuptia, by his new wife, and malus artibus, by bad wicked arts. And addictus, noxio poculo, by the poison cup. So he's drank from the poison cup. He's not addicted to it, if you're thinking that. And my torum tepentem, the tepentem means warm, and it's describing his marriage bed. My marriage bed was warm, mankipi, I was given over to the adulterer. So this is, mankipi is a transferring of something you own. So it looks like he was killed by his new bride, by a poison in the cup, and his warm marriage bed's now given over to an adulterer, which is similar in English to an adulterer. There's a couple other words, but that's the one. Tunk. Then the uxor egregia, this famous notorious wife, she capited, she took some presentem ordacem, she took up some boldness in these present situations, and with a mente sacrilegia, with a sacrilegious mind, she was with her co-arguenting marito, so her husband is arguing back with her. This is the dative present participle. So, and she was resisting, it looks like, because he's in the dative and she's in the nominative, and the altercat, we have altercations in English. So then his special wife, depends how you want to take it, Gregia, she's famous or outstanding, maybe outstanding in a boldness. So with the sacrilegious mind, she's arguing, and they're having an altercation between the two of them, and the co-bit means it's back and forth. So the two of them are arguing, possibly wrestling, I think we see in one of the translations. The populace, this is the people, it's a group, and it's expressed in the singular, so it takes the T. Or estuat, means they were heated or seething like the tide. And tendentes, here they are in the plural, they're stretching out in different directions. So this would be a mental battle. Some of the group are torn in one way. So high, that would mean part of them, they think the pessimam feminam, this terrible woman, viventem, while she's living, should start him immediately, cum corpore marito, with the body of a husband, be sepeliended. Okay, so this body was going to be buried, not burnt on a bier. Okay, and in contrast to the high, there are allies. So there are others who did not have any fidem, didn't have any trust in the mendacio. Others didn't trust the lying or the lies by the cadaver, of the cadaver. This here would be a gerundive. Said Hank cunctationem sequens adolescenso sermo, and sequens are in apposition. But the following sermo, or words, of the adolescent, distinction, we get distinguished from that. They looks like it settled the cunctation, which is the hesitation. Nam 4, Rosus, again, he ingemensen, he groaned, and altius, comparative, more deeply. And he inquired, he said, Darbo, Darbo, I shall give vobis to you. This looks like genitive. Documenta per lucida, very clear documentation or evidence of the intemeratia veritatis, of the undeniable truth. Sometimes it means unrashful or something, but yeah, it looks like it's going to give them the truth. Et and quod, what, process, absolutely or furthermore, nemo, no one, alias, other, cogniverated, new, indicabo. I will indicate this, or I'll give you very clear proof of the truth and what absolutely no one else would be able to know. Tunc, then demonstrating, pointing out me with his digito, with his finger. It looks like he's going to speak. For cum corporis meo custos sagissimus, so this very wise custode, this very wise guard here of my body, exertum, don't know what that's about. He was holding, tenorating a vigilem. Looks like that probably goes in apposition with that. He was holding a vigil, an exertum. You know, he was doing his best, basically, I want to say, to watch me. And then anus, which is old women in the fourth declension, who are cantatrixes. These are people who mutter spells. So some old women who make spells. They were this is present participle, means they were threatening my exuvius. These are the things that you shake off or sloth with your skin. So they were threatening his remains, you might want to say. And ob id, and because of this, they were reformata. They'd taken on some other shape, it looks like. And frustra, and in vain, sapius. Several times it looks like they've tried it, cum industrium, with a lot of purpose, but they were nequiviscent fallere, but they had not been able to deceive this sagissimus custos, it looks like. And postdremum, in the end, finally, with a nebula, which is a cloud, injecta somne, they had injected a cloud of sleep, and in profundem quietem, into a deep sleep, sepulto me, nomine, cairi, so they're summoning or calling his name from his, where he's buried or he's dead, and non prius deserant, they didn't desert prior then, prius quam is split here, dum. So my artist, these are his limbs, were herbeats, so they were dull or stupefied. His membra frigida, so his limbs, basically artist can be your limbs as well, but it probably means his joints here. His joints were dull and his limbs were cold. And pigris connotations. With energetic trying, he was nitantor, striving to obsequia, to obsequia is like following in the artis magica. So that was a hell of a long sentence from wherever the hell it was up here. So if I go over it again, then he pointed to me with his finger. Described how he was a wise guard. He's holding a vigilant. The exertums probably mean exerting himself. The witches who made spells were threatening to get to his remains. They changed their shape in vain. They'd often tried to deceive the guard. And they threw a cloud of sleep over him into a deep sleep. Then they began calling the dead guy's name, and they didn't stop until his limbs and joints were cold and dull. And he was struggling against their magical art. Yeah, okay, nearly done for the day. But, hic, him ut pote, inasmuch as he was indeed even, quidem vivus, living, but he was mortuus, he was dead, tantum merely in soap or in sleep. So this watchman was living, but he was dead to sleep. And quod, because eodem mecum vocabula nucapato. So nucapato means he was called by the eodem, the same vocabulary, the same name with me. So they share the same name, the dead guy and the watchman. He exurged, he got up. Ignaris means he was ignorant of, or didn't really know what was going on. Ad suum nomen, to his own name, so he's responding to his own name, and he got up. And in inanimus umbres modum, so in the modum or way of the inanimate umbra, shadow or ghost, ultrianus, It looks like an adjective meaning of his own accord. He was gradient, he was walking. Quam, although diligenta, diligently, the foribus cubicula obclusus. So the doors, the foribuses were obclusus, were shut, of the cubicle, of the room, diligently. Anyway, per a quadam foramen, through a certain hole. Looks like pre is first. His naso was prosected. His nose was cut off, and mox, or soon or then, his oribusses, his ears were cut off. Vicarium in a substitute pro me. In my place, he sustinuited, he sustained this lanianum, this butchery. Okay, so that's another long sentence. But inasmuch as he was living but only dead into sleep, and because he answered the same name as me, he got up, ignorant of what was going on at his own name, and as an inanimate dead guy, in that way, of his own accord, he walked, and although the room was shut up diligently or locked through a certain hole, his nose first, and then his ears were cut off, vicarius pro me, instead of me. And those are some daily dictionary words. Okay, so vicarious. There's a word like that in English as well, vicarious existence. Substituting deputy one for another, or successor even. But here this vicarious thing was one for another. He was taking the place of being butchered for the other guy who had the same name. And ut qui, and as convenerent, and as it looks like it finishes off the rest of this fallacy of this deceiving, kerem, wax, in the modem, in the way of his ear, aureum, of the formatum, modem, in the way, shape of his ear, which had been prosected, cut off. They applied to him exembusum, according to the rule, or so it looked the same, to the same shape. Naso, ipsius, similar compare. So they procured for him, out of wax, an ear similar to the ones he had, and a nose. So that's a strange way of putting it, but it works in Latin. So in English, you'd just say, for the rest of this deceiving and trickery and witchcraft, the cut off ears and the cut off nose were replaced by ones of wax, which were similar, exembusum, exactly. And nook, and now, ad sisters, this man is standing here, this miser, this wretch, and his premium, his reward, is not of industria, not of hard work, but consecutus, but as a following on from his debilitation from this horrendous nose and ear attack, you might want to say. So, since he was asleep, I guess the reward wasn't from industry or purpose and hard work, but yeah, he got paid for being dissected. That's it for the day.